literally no offense to anything. They're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Making the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs. Okay,
but what do they call them?
Why would they get rid of the dwarves, though?
Magical creatures.
But they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures.
Which comes into this is when Rachel Zegler was cast, he laughed at Disney saying it's fake progressivism. The reason being that Peter Dinklage, who does have acrodynplasia, finds the depiction of the 7 dwarfs very offensive.
You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole image.
That part, and if that's what's available, then that's what we'd like to do. But at the same time, I get what he's saying, because yeah, you're like, well, was it that bad? I go, yeah, because at the time, dwarves really didn't have any representation.
The uproar surrounding Disney's live-action Snow White has erupted into something far beyond any typical Hollywood drama. Rumors are swirling, and fingers are pointed squarely at Rachel Zegler. Her role as Snow White allegedly sparked catastrophic changes that rattled the entire production. Critics claim she disrespected a timeless classic, triggered a total meltdown in Dwarfs casting, and inadvertently set Disney on a path to ruin.
I think this girl does not deserve a feature-length film.
You want to trash that legacy? That company that now Disney has screwed up the last 5 years trying to please a small percentage of minorities in America? Yeah, we're sick of it. So the more you do this, Disney, Iger, Ziegler, whatever her name is, yes, this is exactly the backlash you're going to get from parents who have kids who are your customers. You're supposed to win parents over. You're talking to kids, the parents pay for the tickets. You have to be a dummy as a marketer. If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what? Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role because you just screwed this thing up.
The movie apparently is not very good. I haven't seen it yet. I would be shocked if it were. Again, the star, Rachel Zegler, is unbelievably charmless in public. Studios really need to go back to what they originally did, which was tell your stars to shut up and not say things, because no one is paying to hear your star say offensive things off the screen.
I know this point has been made, but this truly is the worst casting maybe in the history of the film industry.
Breakdown, boop, 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 boop. Breaking updates, very important. Snow White, there's been an enormous amount of controversy surrounding Snow White, obviously.
No one saw the fallout coming, and yet here we are, standing in the ruins of a box office disaster that defied every rosy prediction. Hold on tight, because this ride is about to get turbulent. Everything was supposed to be perfect. Disney had banked on a new era of storytelling, convinced that a fresh, modern Snow White would draw massive crowds. Insiders believed this. Vision would reflect progress, inclusivity, and contemporary sensibilities. But something went terribly wrong. The moment Rachel Zegler stepped into the spotlight, the chatter began.
The reason we had Rachel Zegler on the docket is...
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of like, I don't know, vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing, before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because like we cast a guy in the movie. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood.
Dump on half of the country, everyone who voted for Trump.
But you are not entitled to call for Trump supporters to be harmed. Like, you are actually not entitled to do that. And so let me just remind you, Rachel Zegler, of what the map looks like, just so you can understand when your Disney movie is coming out, how many people you are wishing harm upon. Like, this is America right now. I will love you through these 4 years as best I can. F Donald Trump. Yeah, totally stable thing for her to be posting, wishing harm upon Trump voters, wishing that we have no peace.
President Rachel Zegler also posted, F Trump kinds of posts on social media. She also said that she hoped that Trump supporters, quote, never know peace.
She dared to call the original film weird, slamming its romantic foundation and rattling fans who cherished its heartfelt charm. Her offhand remarks felt like a betrayal, setting social media ablaze with accusations of disrespect toward Walt Disney's beloved masterpiece. The box office figures told a grim story. A towering $270 million budget sank almost instantly when the domestic haul barely scraped $70 million.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because we cast a guy in the movie. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because we cast a guy in the movie. Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood.
President Rachel Zegler also posted, F Trump kinds of posts on social media. She also said that she hoped that Trump supporters, quote, never know peace.
Dump on half of the country, everyone who voted for Trump.
But you are not entitled to call for Trump supporters to be harmed. You are actually not entitled to do that. And so let me just remind you, Rachel Zegler, of what the map looks like, just so you can understand when your Disney movie is coming out, how many people you are wishing harm upon. This is America right now. I will love you through these 4 years as best I can. F Donald Trump. Yeah, totally stable thing for her to be posting, wishing harm upon Trump voters, wishing that we have no peace.
President Rachel Zegler also posted, F Trump kinds of posts on social media. She also said that she hoped that Trump supporters, quote, never know peace.
Even internationally, it crawled to a mere 146 million total. Analysts dubbed it a fiasco. Fans called it proof that Disney had lost its magic. The rumor mill spun into high gear, blaming misguided, modernizing decisions. And many singled out Rachel Zegler as the person responsible for orchestrating the downfall. But that was only the beginning. But the shocking financial implosion was merely the first crack in Disney's crumbling empire. A storm of vitriol whipped around the internet. Commenters demanded to know why Disney had chosen an actress who seemed to mock the film's central love story. They pointed to her interviews, where she rolled her eyes at classic elements and teased the idea of Snow White being a strong, independent woman who didn't need a prince. In theory, that sounded revolutionary. In practice, it enraged devotees who saw it as trivializing a cherished romance. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. People questioned whether Zegler's statements had driven a wedge between traditional Disney fans and the new woke wave that the studio allegedly tried to court. Instead of bridging generations, the film seemed to alienate everyone. Disney faced a dilemma: double down on reimagining classics or abandon them entirely. And in the center of this chaos stood Rachel Zegler, with certain fans labeling her the root cause of the entire meltdown. But this was no ordinary controversy, because the Dwarfs controversy was about to explode. Nothing rattled the public quite like the uproar over the 7 Dwarfs. Initially, fans imagined Disney would uplift short-stature actors, granting them a high-profile moment to shine in a big-budget release. But then came Peter Dinklage's fiery critique, calling Disney's approach backward. He exposed what he saw as hypocrisy. How could Disney claim progressiveness while retaining such an archaic portrayal of dwarfs? The fallout was brutal. Disney scrambled to avoid negative press, reportedly opting to scrap the dwarfs or replace them with CGI stand-ins or average-height actors. Many in the dwarf community felt blindsided. Auditions they'd hoped for were canceled. Opportunities they'd awaited for years vanished overnight. Their frustration magnified when they looked at Zegler, believing her public statements had opened the floodgates to a radical redesign of the entire story. Spokespeople for the dwarf actors blasted the production. Some implied that because Dinklage raged against the portrayal, Disney overcompensated by eliminating dwarf casting altogether. And Zegler, already under fire for her own remarks, became an easy target. Critics claimed her polarizing presence fanned the flames, making Disney skittish about any choice that could draw controversy. Fair or not, the internet pinned her as the catalyst. But if the casting chaos wasn't bad enough, behind-the-scenes turmoil threatened to blow everything apart. Gal Gadot's involvement as the evil queen stirred hype early on. People were thrilled to see her stepping into a classic Disney villain role. Yet rumors soon circulated about a tense friction between her and Zegler. Allegedly, their worldviews clashed in spectacular fashion, culminating in an explosive confrontation that left the crew on edge. Insiders whispered that Zegler's pro-Palestinian social media posts hit a nerve with Gadot, an Israeli actress who served in her country's military. Word got around that Gadot faced hateful messages and possible threats, forcing additional security measures. Cast and crew were reportedly forced to tiptoe around the set, knowing a single comment could ignite an outright feud. To add insult to injury, tabloids had a field day. They relished the idea of a strife-laden Snow White, churning out headlines that painted Zegler as irresponsible and insensitive. Whether or not the clash was overblown, the rumor stuck like glue. And in the public eye, it further cemented Zegler's reputation as the trouble magnet. Yet the behind-the-scenes battles paled in comparison to the catastrophic financial blow that followed. When the dust settled, the numbers spoke volumes. Despite all the buzz, all the marketing, and all the corporate synergy, Snow White limped to a heartbreaking finish at the box office. By the time the final tallies rolled in, it was painfully clear. Audiences had rejected Disney's modern retelling. The chatter among analysts was merciless. They criticized everything from the studio's perceived arrogance to the absence of classic elements that endeared the original to millions. Shareholders fumed. They saw red ink dripping from a project that seemed guaranteed to succeed. Disney executives immediately shelved other planned live-action projects, including the rumored Tangled adaptation. The entire fiasco called into question whether the era of massive Disney remakes was nearing its end. And swirling inside this hurricane of doubt was Rachel Zegler, scapegoated for a meltdown that extended far beyond any single person's influence. Fans demanded accountability. Some insisted that Disney's marketing failed. Others hammered the political correctness angle. But on social media, a loud faction laid the blame at Zegler's feet, convinced her comments and controversies had poisoned the movies. Chances. The financial blow was so severe, it even prompted speculation about leadership shakeups at Disney. But those rumored firings never, and as if the scorching critiques weren't enough, rumors about canceled or postponed deals for Zegler herself started to swirl. Rachel Zegler was supposed to be unstoppable. With her breakout in West Side Story, industry veterans were already whispering about Oscar potential and multi-franchise dominance. She was young, fresh, and had the kind of Broadway to Hollywood trajectory that casting directors dream about. Spielberg's blessing should have catapulted her to the A-list, locking in lead roles for the next decade. But then came Snow White, and everything shifted. Overnight, the narrative surrounding her career turned from Golden Girl glow to full-blown liability. What should have been a defining role became a PR disaster. Behind closed doors, rumors swirled that studio execs were scrambling. Her once sparkling resume now came with a side of controversy, and in Hollywood, bad optics are enough to kill a deal. Projects she'd been loosely attached to, suddenly cold. Producers allegedly stopped returning calls. Some insiders claimed Zegler had become a polarizing presence, and no one wanted to risk the backlash that could come with casting her. The term unreliable began to surface, an unspoken red flag in the industry. And while no official statements were ever made, people noticed that her name began disappearing from casting rumors she had once been central to. In meetings, executives reportedly used her as a cautionary tale, asking bluntly, "Do we really want another Snow White on our hands?" It wasn't about talent anymore, it was about baggage. The vibe around her shifted dramatically. What once read as charming and confident in interviews started being interpreted as smug. Clips resurfaced. Interviews where she dismissed the prince, character, or rolled her eyes while talking about romantic tropes. Social media dissected every soundbite. Edits flooded TikTok comparing her interviews to Disney princesses of the past. Graceful, humble, beloved. Zegler's media presence suddenly looked like a case study in how to self-destruct a PR campaign, and it didn't help that her fanbase split down the middle. While she still had loyal supporters praising her for speaking her truth, an even louder crowd was calling her arrogant, ungrateful, or just plain out of touch. YouTube commentary. Channels picked her apart relentlessly. Reddit threads speculated whether her team would rebrand her image entirely, maybe even drop her last name. Some even joked that if things got worse, she'd pull a Zegler No More act and try again, under a different alias. Behind the scenes, the whisper networks went into overdrive. Talent agents allegedly warned clients against being too outspoken on set. Some claimed Zegler's behavior during Snow White filming, though never fully exposed, was enough to make Disney nervous. One unconfirmed report even alleged that she had clashed with senior crew members and resisted direction, contributing to delays. None of it could be proven, but that didn't matter. In Hollywood, perception is everything. And Rachel Zegler's public persona had shifted from next-gen icon to walking PR hazard. And when a star's reputation becomes more talked about than their performance, the offers dry up. Word was, even small roles became a gamble. The idea of casting her in ensemble franchises? Risky. Streaming-only projects? Maybe. Leading a billion-dollar about reboot? Not likely. Zegler tried to take control of the narrative. She dropped cryptic tweets about growth and resilience, hinting that she had big things coming. She thanked her fans, shaded her critics, and posted heavily filtered selfies with motivational captions. But every post just fed the cycle. Critics slammed her attempts at optimism as tone-deaf. Some mocked her for doubling down when she should have been apologizing. Others called it classic Hollywood ego, denial wrapped in faux humility. And then came the award season snubs. Not that Snow White was ever going to be an Oscar contender, but the total silence surrounding her performance sent a louder message than any official statement could. Her performance had been invisible, a non-event. She hadn't just flopped, she'd vanished. And in this town, that's worse than bombing. At least a spectacular failure can be spun into a comeback. But disappearing? That's death by irrelevance. Agents started pivoting. Managers shifted strategy. There was talk of pushing her into edgier indie roles, small films, dark themes, prestige directors, anything that could cleanse her image and let her reintroduce herself as serious. But even those opportunities were reportedly limited. Who wanted the risk? Who wanted the noise? And while she publicly held her head high, people started to wonder if Rachel Zegler had already peaked. The girl who once walked red carpets alongside Spielberg might now be facing a quiet freeze-out from the industry she was supposed to dominate. It didn't help that actresses like Jenna Ortega, Florence Pugh, and even newcomers like Ayo Edebiri were eating up the roles Zegler once circled. They didn't carry the same baggage. They played the PR game. They made producers feel safe. It became clear Zegler's career wasn't just paused, it was in full crisis mode. And unless something major shifted, unless she found a way to completely reframe her image, she risked going from Hollywood's it girl to its most cautionary tale. Transition, but the avalanche of controversies still wasn't done rolling. Another layer of scandal cracked open, pushing the film's reputation deeper into the gutter. Inside the Disney machine, panic ensued. Leaked memos hinted at an urgent reassessment of live-action remakes. Some executives fumed that the creative direction had been compromised by trying too hard to appease vocal critics, like Dinklage, while also attempting to keep the essence of the original. The result was a warped interpretation that pleased no one. High-level meetings reportedly turned into shouting matches. Accusations flew that Disney needed to read the room better. Another faction insisted the remake was a genuine attempt at modern storytelling, undermined by Rachel Zegler's commentary. Meanwhile, the Dwarfs fiasco served as a glaring reminder of how quickly public opinion can flip from praising inclusivity to condemning tokenism. Word spread that producers debated rewriting or reshooting major portions of the film, but budget constraints made it impossible. Some employees quietly left their roles at Disney, apparently disillusioned with the company's direction. The brand's reputation took a sharp hit, as watchers argued the Snow White meltdown might signal the end of an era. After all the drama and chaos, one big question remained. In the end, Disney's reimagined Snow White stands as a cautionary tale of high ambitions colliding with the harsh realities of audience expectations. Rachel Zegler's involvement, supposed to be a symbol of progressive change, morphed into a lightning rod for outrage. The Dwarfs controversy shattered any lingering faith short stature actors had in big studio promises. A rumored feud with Gal Gadot overshadowed the film's production, and a crushing box office failure hammered home the message that not every classic can survive a radical makeover. Industry insiders now wonder whether Hollywood can truly balance progressive storytelling with the traditions that made these tales iconic in the first place. For some, Zegler has become the face of everything that went wrong, a convenient scapegoat for a blockbuster that drowned under its own contradictions. For others, she's just the unlucky actress trapped in a perfect storm of cultural tensions and corporate miscalculations. Regardless of where the truth lies, the aftermath remains explosive. Snow White lost millions, careers got tangled in scandal, and fans who once adored the magic of Disney were left stunned by a mishmash that felt more like a clash of egos than a heartfelt reimagining of a cherished fairy tale. What happens next could redefine Hollywood's approach to reviving old classics. The road ahead might be uncertain, but one thing is clear: the era of breezy, unquestioned Disney dominance has been shaken to its core, and Rachel Zegler stands at the epicenter of its most shocking defeat.